Riding a hollow horse is never really a fun experience. And for so many riders, they don't actually realize where it happened. They don't realize where basically the backside fell out of everything and they went from being lovely and supported and working together to just being kind of in camel mode. Well, today we're going to talk all things hollow where it comes to your horse, but also what you can do about it, how you can begin transforming your horse from the camel that you found yourself on back to the lovely, trusty steed that you want to be on. Okay, let's dive in. Hey there, and welcome to the Daily Strides podcast. My name is Lorna Leeson. I'm an equestrian trainer and coach, and I work with riders from all over the world, helping them to take a couple of basic principles, put them on repeat, create a little method for themselves, and eventually move forward with their riding and their training, especially if they don't have a regular coach working with them. Okay, and today I want to talk about hollowness because it's been a hot moment since we've covered it, folks, okay? And I thought, let me speak about it today because I recently was speaking to a rider and she was asking me, how am I supposed to work around this? Now, initially, she was kind of going to martingales and things, and I was like, yeah, you know what? I think there's a bigger issue at play here. I think this is a bigger problem, and I think you're going to have to work on it from a foundational level in order to really and truly get to the bottom of it with your horse. And you know what? So many riders struggle with this. And I think the big thing about it is the ride generally goes from feeling okay, like you feel supported, it feels good, it feels like you and your horse are working together, to all of a sudden things just feeling really uncomfortable. And this is both a physical and an emotional uncomfortable. Like it physically feels bouncy, or not even bouncy. Bouncy is the wrong word. It feels bumpy. That's the right word, okay? It's like a jarring feel to it. And it also then feels that you and your horse are no longer working together. It can feel that your horse is maybe trying to evade the contact or evade the question that you're asking. It can feel very unbalanced. It can feel like, hey, I may just get like bumped clean off here. This is not feeling good. And it leaves, I think, both horse and rider feeling really, really frustrated in the long run if it's not dealt with. And, you know, again, if you're struggling with this, and what you may find is that the hollowness will kind of appear and then it goes away. It dissipates a bit. And you're like, okay, no, we're on the up and up. We're going great again. And then out of nowhere, this horrible jarring feeling returns all over again. This braced feeling returns all over again. And that's why I think that it has to be this approach that is going to really and truly work with why it's happening first and foremost, and then from there developing ways that you and your horse can work through it in a way that's going to help you in the long term. So what is a hollow horse? Well, if you could imagine your horse's back, okay? Now let's all imagine we're in pre-primary together, okay, or play school. We're all there together and we're looking at a rainbow. And that's really kind of how we want a horse's back to be, okay? We want a lovely rainbow shape. Now, it won't always look like a rainbow, okay? But the reason I'm saying this is that you want the kind of strong bit, the top of the rainbow, to be where you're perched, yeah, when you're riding. Okay, now, I want you to now imagine a smiley face. And we have inverted that rainbow, folks, okay? That's a hollow back, okay? You're sitting at the very bottom of the trough of the smile, okay? So it is not a good feeling. And because of this, what can often kind of it can feel that way, but what can often look like is that your horse's head and neck might come up in front of you. You might feel like the back end is like just falling out from behind you. It's like, hey, what's going on there? We're no longer there's no energy coming through here, okay? And it just puts everything into feeling, as I said, either really jarring or flat, okay? But I would say it's that jarring feeling. It's not a nice feeling at all. It's like you and your horse are kind of bumping against each other. You're not working together to make something happen. Now, like I said, when this hollowness happens, the whole thing tends to fall apart. Like your transitions are going to fall apart. your actual gaits, whether it's walk, trot or canter, it's not going to look good because your horse is in camel mode. The half-halts don't work. You're kind of feeling like, oh, holy moly, I'm trying to like make everything work together, and the more I'm doing, the less this is like coming together, the more my horse is braced against me. It is not a good feeling at all. And the thing is, the more your horse travels like this, the more likely he is going to be to continue to travel like this. So we need to nip it in the bud. We need to work with this to actually help you turn that smiley face back to a rainbow, okay? Back on top of the world, on top of the rainbow, okay? That's where we have to get back to that. So why do horses go hollow? Well, the first reason might be that your horse is actually very young or very green and they just don't have the physical strength, okay? And this can be where working like short little focus sessions with your horse, and short is the key word in there, short little focus sessions with your horse can really help them to develop strength. And I would say a lot of groundwork in this area. And whether you're doing groundwork over poles, okay, so you could be long lining over ground poles, or you could be on the lunge, things like that. I do think that is what's going to help. And I think that you have to get those foundational elements right in order for your horse to begin to strengthen and develop correctly as well. Now, I'm not really going to focus on that here in this episode, but I just wanted to kind of touch on it because it is a thing, okay? So understand that. Now, there are a couple of other things that cause hollowness, and they're the ones I want to focus on. So the first one is you. And I know, there we go, bit of a bitter pill to swallow, but very often when a horse is hollow, what can start off as being a speed wobble, so maybe you and your horse just lose your balance slightly, or maybe there's just a little bit of tension comes in there, a little bit too much tension for what you needed, but whatever the reason, the rider has responded in a certain way. And very often what you'll see here is that the lower leg has shot forward. So the lower leg, the rider's lower leg, is somewhere up there by the elbows, by the shoulders. What'll also happen is the rider is now sitting basically on their tailbone, okay? And they've like bulged out the bottom of their back. So their lower back now is bulging out, okay? It's like they've curled their pelvis underneath them, okay? And then they're pulling with the reins, okay? So you can see that in this situation, the rider has now gone from being balanced and being secure in their own right in the saddle to actually using the horse's mouth predominantly for support. And that's not a good thing. And very often the horse becomes hollow to get away from the discomfort because the rider is bouncing around there on their back. Okay, not very comfortable for the horse. But also the rider is now using the horse's very sensitive and gentle mouth for balance, okay? So this is like a really big thing. And I think that so often as riders, this can become a habit that as soon as you feel off balance, you kind of revert back to this, I don't know, it's like you're riding, I don't even know what they're called, but you know those motorbikes where the people sit back, like they're almost like lying backwards and they've got the big handlebars and their legs are sticking out in front of them. They're basically like sitting on the ground. I don't know what they're called. I know there's people shouting at me about them. I don't know anything about motorbikes, but they've that sort of a position going, okay? Yeah, that can become a habit for the rider. And if that is the case, your horse is literally just trying to get out away from you, okay? So that's really important. Now, the next reason that this can often happen is that the horse has lost forwardness, okay? Now, forwardness is the key to the kingdom. We're all the time saying it. You can't work on anything else if you and your horse are not working and thinking forward. It has to have forwardness first. Doesn't matter what else happens. The horse has to be both physically moving forward, but also mentally thinking forward. And if that is lost, what can often happen is the back end falls out, okay, which causes the hollowness through the back because it's no longer being supported. The front leg goes into front wheel drive. It begins pulling the horse along, okay, so now the front end, the shoulders are like pulling the horse along, and the neck and the head are literally braced to keep the balance going, okay? So that is obviously an issue that can be worked on. That is a training issue, and that can be worked on. The third reason that I would say where you get a lot of horses becoming hollow is that the riders are only focusing on what they can see. They are riding the horse that is in front of them, the bit that they can see. They're not riding the whole horse. okay? And if you're thinking, what does that mean? Well, you'll often see this where they're like seesawing with their hands, okay? Trying to get the horses, quote unquote, on the bit. And meanwhile, on the bit doesn't happen like that. On the bit, if you want to use that, and I just think it's such a phrase that is so misunderstood, and I don't like using it, but loads of people use it, so we're going to go with it. But on the bit is a result of loads of other things happening. Okay, that you get to the point where you and your horse have made this agreement together to hold hands and move forward. That's on the bit. Sawing the mouth off your horse is not an agreement, folks, okay? In no world could that ever be an agreement. So it's really, really important that you're thinking about riding the whole horse. You're not just focusing on what you can see, you're focusing on how it feels, okay? How it feels for both you and how it feels for your horse. That is a totally different outcome that you will see when you're working with your horse. Okay, so we've kind of talked about the hollowness and everything. Now, where can we go from here? Well, the big issue is that most riders will try and fix hollowness with their hands. So as I said, sometimes they'll ride the horse that they can see in front of them. So the head and neck, yeah? They're not thinking about everything else. Or they're like, well, that happened because I speed wobbled. So you know what? Let me use my hands to rebalance myself and get back like on track. No. Okay? The pulling, the sawing, the rearranging of your horse's head and neck, okay? That is only going to make it worse. You have to think about, hold on, this has to come back to rebalancing through the whole body for both me and my horse. And from there, we can begin to work on the hollowness. So, as I said, the very first thing I would do is to make sure that you are working forward. And I would start in the walk. Just really simple. I would say like stay in the walk. You want to get the forwardness in the walk. You want to make sure you and your horse are working together. And you have to have energy there to work with in order to do anything. If your horse is just like dragging their feet along and, they'd put anybody to sleep who's watching you, that's not working forward. Your horse should be moving with a sense of purpose. That is really, really important, okay? So it's like this, where are we going? Not rushing, not flying around, okay? Just a sense of purpose. Like I am on a mission, I've got a thing to do, and I'm going to do it, okay? That is forwardness. And your horse, and you see horses when they're thinking forward. They're like looking, they're alert, they're focused, they're wondering, they're curious. They're like, okay, what's going on next? Great. And they are engaged with the rider, okay? So we need to get that forwardness without rushing. It's not running around like running the legs off the horse. It's forwardness. And this counts for both walk, trot or canter. Very often many riders, they don't experience the hollowness in the walk or in the trot. It'll maybe be in the canter or vice versa. Or it'll maybe be a specific transition. That was difficult to say. But it could be a specific transition where they experience that their horse is kind of, hold on, we're bottoming out here. Let's try and get that our support system going and get the back up underneath me again. Okay, so yeah, work on forwardness. From there, you want to start thinking about the rhythm. And I know these are the basics, aren't they? But this is what I mentioned earlier. The rhythm and the forwardness and the relaxation, the basics, they are key to really helping your horse to solve this problem from a foundational level, okay? I would then say to work on yourself. So remember the click your fingers rule, okay? That if we were in the arena together and I was able to do a little bit of magic and I could click my fingers and make your horse vanish, where would you land? The answer should always be on your feet, okay? Not on your face, not on your backside, always on your feet. So think about that when you're riding. If my horse suddenly vanished out from underneath me, where would I land? Okay. So this is your posture, your alignment, your position if you want. Okay. So think about that as well. And then from there, you want to then begin to put it all together. Now, I really think that this is where the half halt begins to fit in. And this month, actually, inside of Connection, well, actually last month, this month and the next month, we are all about the half halt. But this is where I really think that the half halt fits in. And not just from a preventative half halt, okay, which is, I just feel that when it comes to a hollow horse, it's actually riders trying to prevent the hollowness through the half-halt actually cause the horse to become hollow because they hold on too much. Now, you want to think about, first of all, getting your horse's attention, and then from there, rebalancing, like establishing the balance, like getting that first, okay? That's where you want to work on this. And how I would suggest doing it would be the transition from walk to halt. So what's so lovely about the half halt is that you get to re-engage the whole conversation with the horse. Remember, you got their attention, you're rebalancing everything, and then through that, you then get to support the horse into whatever it is you're doing, okay? But you have to first, those two first earlier points I just said, like getting their attention and balancing everything or rebalancing everything, they have to be there if you want to offer the support. And this is where that transition from walk to halt can really come in. Because as you are then asking the horse to prepare for the halt, you will use your legs to ask the horse to keep stepping forward. So therefore you're keeping the back end in underneath you. But then you're also using your body to very subtly say to the horse, just stall the ball a little, stall, something's coming, stall the ball, okay? And then you close and gather the energy through your hand. Now, is it just those 3 aids? No, there's a whole lot more that goes into the half halt. I'm simplifying things here, okay? But I do think it's really, really, really important that you learn to do this and learn to do it, as I said, from that simple transition from walk into the halt. And then from here, you and your horse are going to move forward and begin to put this into practice all through the ride. Remember, this is as much of a retraining issue than it is a training issue. Yes, we train it initially when the horse is kind of green or when they're young or when they're working kind of with you for the first time or in a different discipline. But then very often the habit of hollowness comes into play. And then it becomes a retraining issue. And so often retraining takes a little bit longer than training, okay? Because you have to, first of all, like kind of wipe the decks if you want, okay? Or figure out what my horse actually understands right now, and then using that to actually help the horse to kind of look at this from a completely different perspective, your perspective, the new perspective, okay? But I do think that it has to come down to consistency through the basics for you and your horse to move forward with this and to kind of finally go for being, you know, the smiley face, yeah? To being like the rainbow. We want the rainbow, folks. That's where we want to take it. Okay, if you want to learn more about the half halt and actually work with me over the coming few months on the half halt, you can do so inside of Connection. We have live group lessons, like where we're on the lesson live together. It happens in there. We've Q&As. We have review and planning sessions. In fact, from this 3 months as well, I'm teaching you how to use AI for your review and planning sessions. We're doing a deep dive in it each month. So it is all happening in there. You can find all the details over at stridesforsuccess.com/join. Okay, I am going to leave it at that for today. I will chat to you soon. Have a wonderful day. Keep well. Be good. Bye.